So my dear friends, the greatest search for the great masters of the spiritual life is a search for God through a life of holiness and growth in holiness. St. Francis de Sales, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Augustine, St. Anthony of Egypt, and many other men and women, great men and women of the spiritual life, despite their human limitations, had the quest for holiness. Looking at our world today, which more than ever has been ravaged by the bore of dread, of evil and excesses too much, where lies the place for holiness? Understand that every generation, every age has a problem or a multiple of problems to grapple with. In those problems resides an option, an opportunity for holiness. So today, the seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time presents to us what it means to be holy. At it, we are given the how of holiness. How do we become holy? Before we give attention to that, let's understand that the first part of the ordinary season, ordinary time, ends this week. With Ash Wednesday starting on Wednesday, we start another liturgical season, the season of Lent. What it means is that we should be preparing by now to enter a new mood by being self-reflective, a mood of penitence. Why? So that we have a proper disposition and actually attempt to discover our individual states. So this Sunday sets the tone for a Lenten disposition with the words, "Be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." If you read from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 2. Take note also of the fact that our first reading is from the book of Leviticus, the book we just quoted, made reference to. This book, aside from the fact that it forms part of the first 5 books of the Old Testament called the Torah, the book deals with rituals and worship and many aspects of daily Jewish life. But all this is in relation to God. Thinking about it, we will see that there is a necessity for holiness in every aspect of our lives. Holiness is necessary. Many people conceive of holiness to be some sort of moral goodness, moral uprightness, and moral purity. No big deal about that. However, holiness is such a big, huge, rich idea in the Bible that even moral goodness, moral purity, and all that, they form just a minute piece of it, just a part of it. So God tells the Israelites, "Be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." Let's understand what it means for God to be holy. I think that will help us to understand how we are also supposed to be holy. The word for holiness or holy, as used in the Old Testament, the first reading for today is kadosh. What is kadosh? Kadosh is to separate, to set aside for a special purpose, something that is distinct and unique from other things. So that is what it means to be holy, first of all, in the Old Testament. To be distinct, to be set aside, to be unique from other things. Consider when God was referred to as holy, holy, holy. Why? Because the whole earth is full of His glory. When you read from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 3. God is a creator, and all creation, the whole earth, reflects the glory of God. The whole earth speaks of the fact that God is unique, God is distinct, and that is where holiness lies. All that He made is from Him because He is kadosh, because He is distinct. He is unique and distinct because He created all things, and there's no other like Him. He is one. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. We get the idea from there. So what does it mean for us then to be holy? For us to be holy, my dear friends, we are putting ourselves in a position that honors God's uniqueness or unique status. We are to be holy. And if we are to be holy, we want to acknowledge the fact that God is unique, God is distinct, God is one, and only He exists. Anything which does not favor God's uniqueness puts us, we human beings, at the risk of going outside the domains of holiness. So the first reading tells us to be holy because God is holy, to be distinct and unique because God is distinct and unique. Be distinct and unique in your ways. In your dealings with God and neighbor, show a different path. The first reading therefore suggests that we reason with our neighbors in order not to put ourselves in a state of uncleanness, in order that we do not incur sin upon ourselves. So refusing then, my dear friends, to point out sin, if we are refusing to point out sin so that we're taken out of society, if we are refusing to do that, then it's suggesting that we are failing to acknowledge God's uniqueness. If God created all things to be good because He is goodness Himself, and we human beings see sin and do not attempt to point it out for it to be taken away, then what we are actually doing is that we are trying to prove that God is not holy, God is not unique, God is not one, and there's a kind of multiplicity of gods. That's not what we believe in. So as much as possible, let's try to be unique, let's try to be distinct and as God wants us to be. So this is the message for the 7th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The task is this, very simple. Be distinct, be unique, show a different path. Be different. That is what it means to be holy. That's where holiness resides. Be distinct and unique. It means that we have to acknowledge that God is different and there is none like unto Him. He is one. His holiness is reflected in all creation, and even in you. He created all things. He created you and made you good. You are good. You are part of God's creation. There is no defect in creation. If we spot sin, if we spot defects which are as a result of human choices, then we have to make the conscious effort to take them out. As much as possible, attempt to overcome sin, and it is a daily struggle. We must emphasize that. Do not be weak in your firmness of the way of life you have chosen. What proves that? The proof of your weakness is in your fight against sin, is that you have taken on the shapes of unreasoning beasts. You have taken the shape of animals, and that is not what you are. Be different, be unique, be undivided in heart by doing what will honor God's glory, and you will at the end reflect God's holiness. But remember, my dear friend, that holiness is a daily struggle. Peace be with you.